Bonjour à toutes et tous, vous écoutez First Print, votre podcast comics préféré pour une nouvelle émission au format SuperFriends. C'est dans ce podcast que l'on va à la rencontre des personnes qui font vivre la culture comics et la culture bande dessinée par leur travail. Et aujourd'hui, c'est un artiste dont on a déjà pas mal parlé et qu'on aime beaucoup qui va venir dans le podcast puisque c'est CROM, le dessinateur notamment qui a fait Riders avec Daniel Freedman et qu'on retrouve surtout aujourd'hui avec sa série Birdking aux Humanoïdes Associés. Il est de passage, là il est en tournée dans la France avec un petit passage par Paris et donc on se retrouve ensemble pour parler un petit peu de dessin. Tout simplement, ce podcast sera en anglais. Merci de patienter juste après le générique. So that was my short introduction.
Okay. And you're going to edit all of this later.
Yeah, I'm going to edit everything.
There we go.
So
okay.
How are you, CROM?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, feeling quite energetic today.
Yeah, aren't you too tired about the whole signing tour?
Kind of tired physically, but energized emotionally. So it's one of those things where you do travel a lot and you see a lot of people. So it takes a toll on you, but when I go back to my studio after a tour like this, I feel very energized by how much people show me they love the book and the work. So yeah, that's why I'm such a kind of high spirits right now.
That's perfect. So this is the first time that we speak together, actually. Yeah. But I already spoke about you since the Riders was published in France because cool. I really instantly loved your art and the way you are drawing. So
nice.
But other people might not know who you are. So can you introduce yourself a little bit?
So I'm an artist who goes by the name of CROM. CROM, no relation to the God of Steel from Conan.
But we can maybe start by that. What's the inspiration from your alias?
Well, it's a long story, but I'm going to keep it short. My uncle was a painter, and probably when I was about 7 or 8, he told me I should have an artist name. And I couldn't think of one, so he said, while you think of an artist name, use all the initials of your names together and use them for now. And I used that and it ended up being CROM, and the years went by, so it really stuck. And yeah.
Okay, so now we have several detectives that are just looking for every artist that are
trying to decipher every letter. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the previous question. That,
of course,
was your short introduction. Can you start maybe just by how you came into art drawing, and if you were a comic book reader when you were younger?
Yeah. I started reading a lot of Disney books when I was a little kid. You know, the Mickey Mouse books, and then I moved on to superhero stuff. Then I went through a teenage phase of reading graphic novels and European comics, etc. I think I have no preference when it comes to comics. I mean, I call them comics, all of them, but, coming to France, I'm realizing there is a lot of categories for each kind of book, which is quite confusing.
Yes, that's what we do.
So especially when I'm speaking in English, I say comics and I refer to all books with panels and drawings in them. And I guess I kind of always like drawing. I say this a lot, but all kids draw at some point, and then at some point, all of them stop. Yeah, and it kind of feels like some kind of music chair game where every time one kid stops drawing and you're the last one left standing, and all of a sudden you're the kid in the class who draws, and everyone comes to you for it, and that's kind of it. So the question, how long have you been doing this for? In my opinion, I've been doing it my entire life. And
so this is just a question at what point did you not stop?
Exactly. I haven't stopped. And I was making comics since I was probably 7, 8, very badly drawn comics, but it was kind of my way to put my ideas out there. If my parents took me to the cinema and I'll see a film that I really liked, I wanted to go home and make a comic of it. So it was that kind of thing.
We share quite a story because I was also the kid drawing his class.
Oh, there you go. So
But I'm a failed artist because I stopped just before high school.
Oh, right. Why did you stop?
Because my father said that nobody would want to see what I was drawing.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah,
there you go. This is it. Yeah. I think I was quite fortunate. My parents, they were quite encouraging about it. I think they always said to me, it doesn't matter what you do as long as you try and be the best at it. And that kind of stuck with me.
So, but it seems to me like you're quite young. If
I am not, no.
No. I don't know if you can say just because just to know at what time you switched to be a professional artist.
Same. It goes with everything. At what point do you call yourself a professional? Is it on your first publication?
When you're published, yeah.
Yeah. So I was chasing the idea of being, a professional comics for ages. I did self-publishing in the UK for years.
Okay.
I had a comic book called Golden Campaign, which I published 3 volumes of, and that's kind of, I will go and hustle at comic shops and Comic Cons in the UK, showing my book, kind of putting my name out there and trying to catch that book deal to kind of get published. And that the first book that I guess professionally published was Raiders in the US with Dark Horse Comics. And I can't quite remember when was that. I want to say 2021 or maybe 2020. But it took a while. It took a while of shopping around and trying to show it to different publisher houses in the US. And eventually Dark Horse picked it up out of the blue. And that was quite exciting to me.
Because when you were doing your first self-published books, were you also the writer or were you already working with someone else?
I was a writer, but I was working with someone who was helping me kind of shape the story a little bit. I feel like I'm a storyteller. And the gap between being a storyteller and a writer is quite big sometimes. So I feel a lot better when I have someone helping me with that structure of things. I think if it was just up to me, I will kind of go on for ages and never finish the story and focus on the cool bits and the characters and backstories, etc. So it's been a process. Birdking in itself, it started as a short comic on my Patreon that I was writing myself. And I encountered the same issue where I felt like I could go on and on with the story and it will never go anywhere. And that's when I kind of took, I asked Daniel if he wanted to join me on this journey.
And when I was just referring to your age, it was also because you were saying that you were pulling your printed comics in a comic shop or at conventions.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know if you were also using digital tools, but you mentioned your website, but also we know that Instagram has become very important, or even the Pinterest, or.
I mean, I owe a lot to Instagram for sure. And I had a full-time job in advertising when I was doing the self-publishing. So I had a 9 to 5, and I will work on my comics at lunch hour and on the weekends, and sometimes I'll take days off to work on the comic, to travel around and show it to people. I think it's just one of those things you just kind of, if it's a matter of passion and love, you just do it because you have to, you must. It's kind of your mission in life sometimes. And
But it can be discouraging at some point.
Of course. It's
so how do you keep it up?
I think with time you kind of develop a thick skin about stuff, about people telling you your work isn't great, or I've heard all kinds of comments, especially when I was coming out. When you're a student, people feel free to tell you all kinds of things about your work. I've heard it all, really. I was told that my work is not commercially viable. I got a kind of it wasn't a compliment. I think it was intended as an insult, but I took it as a compliment. I think someone at Comic Con years ago told me my work was illustration for illustrators. Which I guess their point was it's not going to sell because it doesn't have a wider audience. But I took it as a kind of a compliment because illustrators know what they like and they have I guess a developed taste for what they want to get.
But speaking of your drawings, we all the sum of what we saw, read, and watched. So the basic question is, what were your influences? And before you answer, is Mike Mignola one of your influences or not? Because I guess you hear it a lot.
Yeah, I do hear it a lot. And yes, he's definitely one of my influences. He's not one of my foundations in my kind of influence spectrum. He, his work obviously has been quite crucial in what I do, especially at the later stages of my work when I started thinking about how to apply shading and blocking kind of light in my drawings, which is something that I kind of put to aside for a long time. My main focus for years was line work. I think line work is what I was obsessed with. And therefore, my top influence is Taiyo Matsumoto, who is all about the line work. It's all about this kind of effortless looking drawings that have somehow a lot of detail and yet they look simple. And that's kind of what I was obsessed with. There's also the Italian artist GP, who I found his work when I was in college, and I just couldn't get over how scribbly the characters look, and yet they have so much detail and gesturing and character, and that is that kind of path. And obviously, I've been influenced by all the games and animes and all the kind of stuff that I watch. I consume a lot, and I'm a comics fan. I'm an anime fan. I play video games, and all of that goes into my work.
I was going also into the video games.
Okay.
No, but what were your? Because Riders, I haven't read your first published book. So in France, we only have Riders, which was with a very, very small publishing company. So I think only 700 books were printed. It was really a really short amount of
it's
books.
Completely sold out now.
Yeah. But Birdking is with les Humanoïdes Associés, so it's really
a lot bigger.
Yeah, a lot bigger. So I think that more people get to know your work. But the two are in the same style of dark fantasy setting, I would say. And I was wondering also if you had any video games influences in terms of the dark fantasy genre.
Of course. I mean,
and I want you to say Dark Souls, obviously.
Well, I mean, that's pretty obvious. I showed Dark Souls to Daniel Freedman, the writer of Raiders and Birdking, and he got completely obsessed over it. I couldn't believe that he hadn't seen the game. He didn't know about it. So I said, look, you need to play this game. It will change the way you look at things. And this is after Raiders. So obviously Birdking, and Daniel says this a lot, and I think it's pretty cool. He says we have the influence of the two Miyazakis, the Dark Souls Miyazaki and the Studio Ghibli Miyazaki, and we kind of put them together, and that's kind of our main kind of inspiration for the style and the aesthetics of the game. And even the way he provides lore and kind of clues to the story, he does it in that way where, let's say you're playing Dark Souls and you get a little tiny story of this sword that you found somewhere, this old king or this old wraith in the background, did it years ago. And that is that kind of vibe that we want to achieve with Birdking. And, Bloodborne, all the From Software games, so many influences are there, but these are kind of the main core of what we enjoy. Yeah,
but I just want to because it's the second book you were doing with Daniel, and you mentioned that you met him online, or
it was a random out of the blue email that he sent me one day with the script for Raiders, and he said, "Listen, hi, this is my script. Literally,
do you want to draw it?"
Yeah. I just received an email. He said, "Hi, my name is Daniel Freedman. I'm a writer. I live in LA. I've followed your work for a while, and I have a script that I think is perfect for you." And it was a script for Raiders, and I read it, and I thought, yeah, he's right. This is pretty cool. It almost felt like it was written for me, and we started kind of working together, and we developed a really good relationship. So yeah.
And so at some point you decided that you wanted to do another book together, or what is the spark was from you this time, or?
So we finished Raiders, and I guess in terms of a book that it doesn't have the kind of backing from big publishers to put it out there in terms of advertising, etc. Raiders did quite well, and Dark Horse was quite happy with it, and they wanted us to do a second volume for Raiders. So they approached us about it. They approached Daniel. They said, maybe you guys should do a sequel to Raiders. But I think Daniel always intended to have it as like a one shot. And at the time I was working on Birdking for Patreon. I was developing this character because Birdking started off as a standalone character, as a poster with no story, no nothing. And people kept on asking me, well, what's the story behind this character? Who is he? Is this a TV show? Is this is this a comic? And it was absolutely nothing. There was no substance to it. So,
but you didn't say that publicly.
Oh yeah, I'll be quite open about it. I'd say, look, it's just a cool character. I'm not scared of saying, look, I only drew this because he's super cool, and I like how he looks, and I'm all about aesthetic sometimes. So it's out there, and so I developed the story. I did it on Patreon, and when Daniel came to me with the request from Dark Horse about doing a sequel, I said I can't really do it, and obviously it's not what we wanted. And right now I'm focused on this thing called Birdking that I'm working on, that I really want to put it out there. How about you join me together and we'll kind of make it happen?
Okay, so this is just started with the cool Birdking character.
Yeah.
So also you were just saying like, okay, let's do a skull with flames around and a big armor.
It's the randomness thing, really. I think I did a quick sketch in one of my notebooks in a work meeting when I work in advertising. And it was, when you're bored and you're listening to some marketing meeting or whatever, I just kind of drew it. And like a few years later, I found it and I thought, oh, that was actually pretty cool. I'm going to develop it. And I did a character sheet of Birdking, front and back, full color, added a few birds, a few, arrows, etc. Put it on, I think it was Behance back then. And it kind of blew up, and all of a sudden it's everywhere on Pinterest, and people on Instagram love it and they want to know more about it. So I thought maybe I have something here. So
is it hard to go from a cool character design to a full lore and story and a whole world?
I mean, when you say lore and world building, I feel like to me that's quite it comes quite easy. I love to build stuff around characters and their past and their weapons and everything. That's kind of what I enjoy. I think the difficult bit from my point of view was kind of connecting the dots, filling in the gaps with a concise story that has a structure and that kind of offers excitement. And that's when Daniel Freedman comes in and kind of makes it work.
So he's the one who came up with the war between the North and the South with the whole sacred weapons.
Absolutely, yeah. He did. Obviously, we have a very flexible relationship where we kind of contribute ideas to each other. My work helps his and his helps mine, and it's a very kind of it's a very mutual thing that we have going on, which helps a lot. But yeah, when I started the story, I had a few characters. I think I had Birdking, I had a ghoul, I had Thonir, Bianca, Amelia, and that's about it. And I had the Wraiths. And I gave Daniel everything I had. I said, look, I have this story, I have these characters. It's going nowhere. Help me. and that's how we ended up with the book we have today.
And one of the things that is interesting, it's not sold as a single issues also on the American market. It's directly what we call original graphic novel.
Right.
Why did you choose to this kind of publication format? Because you could have done maybe a mini series, a limited series, or an ongoing series.
I think this comes from the way we were used to working with Dark Horse. Raiders was supposed to be different issues. And Dark Horse thought it would be a better idea to put it all in one book. They thought it would be a lot better in terms of sales, in terms of keeping people's interest, and it worked. So I guess we thought, well, if it worked for Raiders, it will work for Birdking, and it makes no sense to do little kind of trade-offs, etc. So yeah.
And do you think it might be easier for you to also build a story with a large amount of pages, opposed to like if you had to do like to split the story into 20-page bits and try to with Daniel to have a sort of cliffhanger or something to get the readers interested in every 20 pages?
I think so. I think first of all, I'm not used to doing kind of 22 pages trade-offs. It's not something I've done before, so I guess this format kind of suits me a lot better. I can't even imagine how that would work. I think Raiders is the one that we kind of try to do that way a little bit. But as we pitched the work to Dark Horse Comics, we adapted it immediately to a completely whole one shot. I'm quite happy with the way it is. I can't even picture it, how it will actually work in separate issues. I think it will break the story in very strange ways. And I'm a very slow artist as well, so I need some time to kind of present the story in a way that you feel like you saw enough, but you want more.
And how does it work well, with your work, I guess how many pages do you do a day, and how are you working? Are you doing like trying to get the full script for the whole graphic novel? Or are you working by maybe with just the script from the chapters, because there are still short chapters in these books?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm still trying to work it out. In theory, I take a year for every book. So we've done one book every year for the US market.
I just don't know if the third book is already out.
It's finished. I finished the third book in March of this year.
Okay, but it hasn't been published yet.
No, they always they take the book in mid-March and print it around September, November. Or they print it throughout the year and then they have it ready for November. So it takes me about a year for every book. Obviously, this is not a year where I sit to work on the book every day. I kind of do various things. I run a Patreon, I run my online shop.
You go to France to do signing and interviews?
Exactly. I'm here. I tattoo. So so I have to kind of do tattoo appointments. And there's a number of things I do, and I do enjoy the variety of things. It kind of gives me a kind of a palette cleanser before I work on every page. So to this day, I don't really know how long it will take me to finish the book if I was just to sit and work on it every day. So I feel like all these in-between gaps I have throughout the year, they're kind of part of the process in a way. But yeah, we'll see. I think in the last 2 months before the deadline, that's usually when I kind of go full on steam ahead, and I do about 4 to 5 pages a week. And once I get in the zone, I can produce a lot. But it's not viable. I think I will collapse if I keep that up.
What takes you the most of your time when you're drawing pages? Is this characters? Is it not countrysides or landscapes, backgrounds? I
think as far as the process goes, the longest bit is to kind of sketch like the rough stages of each page, kind of get in the right mood and the right composition of characters. I enjoy a lot drawing the characters and drawing whatever they're wearing and the weapons they're carrying. I think that's kind of the dessert for me.
Even when it's not complicated but really rich design, like for Birdking,
I enjoy the challenge. I think that's the bit where I have a lot of fun. Coloring, once I've picked the colors, it becomes quite methodical. So that kind of becomes just a kind of a last bit of the process that I don't enjoy as much as inking or kind of designing the characters.
And is that maybe why you're doing also like a full just colors like I don't have the word in English.
Like flat colors.
Yeah, flat colors for backgrounds. Is it just because that's something you don't enjoy doing? And you won't be the first time.
Yeah, no, it really isn't that. I think, and I've been asked this question a lot in France about backgrounds and about flat colors. I'm guessing Bidet is not very used to it.
It's really striking because it's always also different colors. We can switch on the same page from one really flat pink to one flat yellow. And
so I guess my initial approach to it was to bring in the colors depending on the mood of the scene.
Of course.
Also, I know from like operas and like sci-fi films, they always assign a kind of song to a character that kind of plays in the background when this character is in play. And I wanted to kind of do the same with colors. So whenever Bianca is on the page and we're talking about some kind of emotions that are quite personal to her, you always see soft pinks in the background. And some pages you can see the danger increasing, so you go from very low reds into like intense red once it gets to the point where you're in a dangerous situation. So I kind of, at least I justify to myself by kind of trying to play into the emotions of the comic with the tones that I play in every panel. But some panels I have no idea what color to pick, so I just go for something that looks cool and fits whatever character is in place. Yeah.
And one other thing that you're doing, and I don't know if the idea came from you or from Daniel, the onomatopoeia sounds. Like it's words that are really describing.
So if you follow my work back to before Raiders, before Birdking, that's something I did a lot with my work. I'll do a lot of posters with text. I always thought text was something that really kind of helps my illustrations in a way. It kind of finishes it up somehow. And I couldn't I couldn't do anything without text in the background. So it just felt natural when I was doing comics, since you have all these sound effects that you need to put in to kind of make it part of the illustration. So it became quite important to me.
Because I don't think we see that a lot. Like I really, it really struck me. Like on the first book when Bianca see the whole soldiers with the great danger.
Like
I said, like
doom.
No, it's doom in
English. It's in French is danger, isn't
danger,
it? I think if you look at my posters from the early, 2015, 16, all my illustrations have some random word in the background. Sometimes it's not even about writing anything. It's just visually, somehow it makes it more striking, in my opinion. So, of course, the panels of a comic will have it. And there's more opportunity in a comic to put text because you need it sometimes. And I know a lot of artists don't want to do it as much because it reminds them of golden era comics from, the superhero kind of days. But I enjoy it. I think it looks cool. I think it helps. And it makes it a bit different sometimes. Yeah,
I would assume that maybe the hardest part of doing a comic book page is the layouts or just like like you said the composition. And I wanted to know, especially with the action scenes, how do you what is your approach to this kind of
so again, with the working relationship that we have with Daniel, I do a lot of thumbnails, very quick, tiny thumbnails on pencil, and I scan them and I send them to him, and we kind of discuss the scenes, if it looks right, if we're happy with it, and once we kind of sign off on it, I can just work on drafts from the thumbnail, and I try not to think too much about it. I feel like if I get in my head about it and I rework it, it almost feels like non-genuine. It feels like not natural. So it's always kind of hard to try and strike that balance between perfection but also looseness, So that's kind of how I go about it. Not think about it, and if there is something I can fix later, I'll try and do it and try and keep that rawness to the designs. And
so you're not thinking either way about the angles, because we can see in some scenes that you've got something that looks like what we would see in an anime with the perspective.
I see. I mean, that's really good to hear. It's not a conscious choice. I obviously I watch a lot of anime, I read a lot of manga, and all of the stuff that I consume somehow kind of filters through my work slowly. And I guess all my references, they're I'm very open about them, so they're all there. They're all laid out on the pages. You can see them.
I was thinking maybe with a fight with chains, and you can really see trying to get out of the page and try to catch you at the reader. And
exactly.
I would think like this was this would be really good in animation.
And as a comic reader yourself, you know that there are certain tropes to comics that you have to think of when you work on a certain scene. Chains, for example, you'll think of Wolfencap, you'll think of Ninja Scroll, and all these kind of things come to mind. And I have all these images saved in my memory, and I use them when I work on my stuff.
Would you say that did you do a Bible, a Birdking Bible, when you were?
I mean, I guess there is a sketchbook that has all the Birdking work in it.
You can see some part of the sketchbook pages in the French version.
Oh, okay, exactly. Yeah, so there is some scan of those. Yeah, so I have a kind of small sketchbook that is only Birdking themed. It has all the character designs. It has all the ideas. It has the development of the logo for a ghoul. And ideally, Daniel and I would love to put out a Birdking Bible one day. If we have the opportunity to kind of print it, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, a companion book.
Exactly, glossary, etc., lore. That'd be a dream for us, I think. Yeah.
What did you had anything to do with also the story? Like, were you also putting your ideas into Daniel's script, or were you really relying on his writer's skills?
As I said, I had a story before I got Daniel to join me on this, and he used some of the stuff that I had, which I was quite happy with. I told him what was important to me in terms of the story, and when there is something that doesn't kind of quite work, I'll mention it. Obviously, I respect Daniel's work, so I'll say, look, I'm not too crazy about this, or I think it would be better if it worked that way. What do you think about it? And it's kind of a kind of give and take relation when it comes to these things. In the same way where I draw something and he says, "Oh, well, maybe you drew this in a way that doesn't really convey the emotion of that scene." And I thought, okay, you know what, you're right. Let's kind of change it. So it's kind of a give and take, and I believe it works. And yeah, I think my priority when I work on it is for all the characters to look super cool and super badass, and yeah.
So how do you choose? Not choose maybe, but because you mentioned Matsumoto before in your influences, and you wanted to go with the line which seems to be not detailed a lot, quite simple, but without being simplistic, I guess.
Yeah.
So how do you know that you've got the right amount of details on the background, on the character, on the design?
I can only describe it as a gut feeling. Honestly, there is no method to it. I feel like there is something in you that tells you it's done. And you stop there and you move on to the next panel. Yeah. Okay.
And what about the inks? Because what really struck me also in the when I discovered Birdking is like the first time that we see Bianca's so-called father. I just don't remember his name right now.
Thornier. Yeah, the master. Yeah.
You see, there's one panel where it's just flat black ink, and there's no technical reason for that.
There isn't. There isn't.
You just don't want. So there's a reason because you want to discover what it looks like panel to panel.
Of course.
But that's a really strong artistic decision to just put
fully black.
Yeah. And you still do, and so there's the use of flat inks throughout the whole book like that. So. Yeah, just wanted to.
Yeah, no, like I mentioned before, the shading and the kind of blocking of light in my work, at least, it came at a very later stage of what I've been working on, and at some point in my work, I decided to look into Mignola's work and say, well, this guy does amazing things. I've never used this amount of shading in my work. I'm gonna give it a shot and see how that works. And that's kind of how slowly my style began absorbing that kind of technique. And I guess today I use it when I feel like it helps the illustration look cooler and darker and more mysterious, and it really gives you the tools to kind of reveal only sides of the character that you want to show. And it's working so far. We'll see in the future.
Would you say that at some point you could get? I'm being itchy, but like you would get lazy and you just said like, okay, so I'm just going to draw it full black, and because I don't have the time, I don't have the mood to.
I mean. I wish I could do that. Yeah, I wish I could do that with horses. I hate drawing horses. They're really difficult, and Daniel keeps on putting them in every fucking
so that's
book.
That's why you killed the horse.
I want to cover all their legs in black and their backs. Horses are really difficult to draw, in my opinion.
I met a French artist who did a western.
Jesus! Yeah,
and so. And he told me that he hated drawing horses, and so
they're a nightmare.
And so I asked him like, "But why did you do a western?" And he said, "But look at the ground. It's always like tall grasses. Or if it's in the desert, you will have dust." And so that's how he just didn't have to draw the legs.
I wish I could just get away with more just by blocking it with lots of black ink. We'll see. I guess when you read Hellboy in Hell, you can see how minimal Mignola's work has gotten, but you don't read laziness from it. You read evolution. You read someone who has clearly put a lot of work into developing their style and has reached an almost kind of godlike level. So I'd love to get to a point where my style has developed a simpleness, but organic in a very organic way. Not that I'm forcing it, but it just happens due to the fact that I've been drawing the same way for so many years. Yeah.
Is it hard, because I mentioned the horse you killed, you and Daniel, but is it hard to kill characters and to let them go out of the story?
Yeah. Daniel likes to kill characters. This started off with...
So it's really brutal in Riders also.
Yeah, started off with Riders. And I guess, it is difficult to let go of a character, at least for me, because I get a connection with the character after drawing them in so many panels. And, you start with page one, and it's like meeting a new person. They look a certain way, and you think, okay, let's see. I'm about to take on a journey with this character, and then at some point, you know that you won't draw them ever again. They're gone forever, and it's a very odd feeling to it. And that's why when it does happen, I try to make it as emotional and as remarkable as possible.
And even though we are speaking about the 2 books of Birdking, so you just mentioned that you had finished the last volume.
The third one, yeah.
And
the last volume is the 4th one.
So the first one.
It's 4 books,
no, it's four books.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question was it hard to let go also of a whole universe? But are you like anticipating the moment that when you will be finished with Birdking?
Yeah, I think it will be a very strange feeling. It'll be a bit of a kind of emptiness in my life, I guess. I mean, this is trivializing it a little bit, but like how parents feel when a little kid leaves their house and they don't have to look after it anymore. I think I'm going to feel a little bit like that, a bit of a void. But I suspect Birdking will stick around for a while with other projects and things. So yeah.
Are you already thinking about the post Birdking phase? I don't know how you would call it.
Oh, right, like the future after we finish Birdking. Yeah, of course.
Because I guess you already know how it's going to finish.
Yes, I read the script for Volume 4, the last book, and obviously Daniel and I, we're very happy about it, and I'm working on it right now. So yeah, I know how everything looks. I know what's going to happen, and we'll see. There are conversations happening about all the things that are coming up. I think Birdking and the Birdking world has brought things to our lives that we didn't expect. You know, we have
and you could totally do a spin-off of a prequel,
even just things like, you know, the spin-offs, or there are conversations about other mediums.
Of course,
we have the toys, the Birdking toys, and people love them. A lot of people come to read Birdking just because they found the toys before they found the comic, which I find quite interesting.
Birdking toys are out there already?
Yeah, they're collectibles completely. They always sell out within the first week. We have 3 different toys of Birdking coming out. The first one, you can't really find it anymore. The second one's, again, it completely sold all the pre-orders. And the third one is a big version of Birdking sitting on the throne. These are collectibles that people get really excited about. And they're made by a very good collectible toy company called Mighty Jacks. And I'm going to be in a New York Comic Con signing toys and signing books at the stand of Mighty Jacks in October. So yeah.
Okay, so I guess I have to steal one of your toys.
That'll be the only way you'll get one. Yeah.
yeah, but I want to get one. I want to get one Birdking.
And here in France, a lot of people have brought their own toys for me to sign.
Okay.
So I've been signing all kinds of things: toys, Magic the Gathering cards, and it's quite exciting. Yeah.
And did you notice maybe a difference in the interaction you have with French readers compared to American readers or British
Absolutely.
readers?
Yeah. I mean, the culture here for comics is completely different. In the UK, it has to be quite fast paced. You don't have time to talk to people as much. They don't do slots like they do in comic shops here. People just show up and queue up for hours. And while you want to spend time with them, you don't want everyone else to wait for ages. So you try to kind of strike a balance between getting to talk to the person, having a good chat, and then moving on to the next person, so you can like kind of keep it moving and no one stands there waiting for 2 or 3 hours just to get a quick signature. So it took me a while to get used to the idea of being here, having a slot, someone sitting with you, doing a whole sketch of a character, discussing ideas from the book. But I kind of enjoy it a lot because you get to know how much people love the book and what kind of theories they have about the story and how they discover the book. I find it fascinating. Some people find it through recommendations from their comic sellers, or there was a guy who told me he heard about it on the radio, which I guess I never think much about radio these days. To me, it's all about podcasts and, digital media. But yeah, he actually listened to a whole bit on Birdking on national radio in France. And I thought that was fascinating.
Which is great.
Yeah, which is great. Obviously, I had no idea.
You have no idea how hard it is to have to people speaking about comics, American comics on the national radio.
It's mad. Yeah, I'm still trying to kind of gauge how well Birdking is doing in France. I don't really know. Some of the questions I get in interviews is, how do you feel about how well Birdking is doing in France? And that question always kind of sets me aback a little bit, which I guess is doing well. So, yeah.
And so I've got one last question, which is maybe the most important of them all.
Okay.
No, because we're doing this interview and I can see you. I know who CROM is.
Yeah, sure.
So, but when you're doing public signings, so you always wear a mask.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know why.
I guess the easiest and the quickest answer is why not? It's super cool. I when I grew up, I was into superheroes. They had secret identities. As a teenager, I follow a lot of musicians who had masks on, MF Doom and Daft Punk and even Gorillaz with the characters that you didn't really know at the time who was behind them. And I found that adds a little bit of kind of myth to the media that you consume, a bit of magic, and we could do with a little bit of that, I think. So as long as I can do it, I'll try and keep the mysticism behind it all.
Watch out for paparazzis.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you. It was a lovely time discussing with you, CROM. I was really happy, and I just can't wait to read Birdking books 3 and 4.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Honestly, thank you so much.